You are listening to Fantha tracks.
He's waiting.
Classic Star Wars and the collectibles they gave us. From vintage Star Wars to the modern era of the saga. This is Collecting Tracks. Here are your hosts, Richard Hutchinson and Chris Leddy.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Collecting Tracks. I'm Richard Hutchinson.
And I'm Chris Leddy.
And we're your hosts for episode 5, Regional Star Wars Favourites. Chris, it's been a while since our last show. What have you been up to in the last few months?
I know. It's been a little bit too long for our recording schedule, but it is what it is. We're just getting over winter. It was a nice winter here in New England, in the States. Spring has sprung. Yeah, not that long ago. Went on a nice vacation with the family up to the mountains. Did some snowboarding with my girls. And I had a chance to set up at a local show. Actually got some actors from The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, a show that was in the town that I live in. It was really successful for me sales-wise, and it was really fun to meet some of those actors, one of which is actually from New Hampshire. Always good to see, a local talent get some Star Wars action. But that's kind of what's been going on here. I'm just enjoying Mando Season 3 and Bad Batch. And how about you?
I've been super busy myself. I mean, I haven't recorded for a while. I mean, for none of us, it's a job. But
I know.
Honestly, what a busy time I've had. So I've also been on vacation, took the family off to Lanzarote, which is one of the small Canary Islands off the coast of Africa. And I've got a new job, so I'll be starting that in about 4 weeks' time. That was quite tough. It was a 2-day interview, and the 2-day interviews are awful. And I think it's been my 5th one now. And on the other 4 I wasn't successful, but on this one I was successful. So everything worked out well because the place I'm going to is the closest to me, has the best reputation. So I thought, wow, it's worked out perfectly. I'm obviously gearing up towards Celebration, so I'm liaising with all of the local UK Star Wars fans, making plans to get down there. As part of the Vintage Rebellion, we've managed to get accepted onto the podcast stage, and I'm also doing something for the collecting track, which I'm really delighted about. We're doing eccentric items from Blighty. So that's myself, Andy Preston, Pete Davis, Jason Smith, and Andy Spoons Norton, with Chris Porteous, who's going to be recording that for us. So I'm looking forward to that. Just like you, I've enjoyed Season 3 of The Mandalorian, and I've really loved Bad Batch. It picked up after that very, very odd start. I wouldn't say it was slow, because I know a lot of people online said slow, but it wasn't slow, it was just odd. It was almost like fillers at the start of a season, so I was a bit surprised by that, but it's definitely picked up, and it's going in the right direction. In part of my comic collecting, I mean, all these comics drive me mad, so I wish Marvel just had everything. You would think that Marvel would have all the Star Wars comics, seeing that Disney owned them, but I was staggered that when I went to Forbidden Planet and I saw a couple of comics by Dark Horse, and I thought, what? So I was kind of like, right, okay, so how does this fit in with IDW? So I've spent the last, weekend, trying to sort out comics, making lists, trying to subscribe to things. And Chris, we can't get Dark Horse and IDW over in the UK. They don't have the license for UK. So I've got to get them, like Forbidden Planet get them because they've got stores in the US, so they can trade them internally. But my local comic dealer can't get any IDW or Dark Horse. So that's an absolute pain. I just don't get the logic behind it.
Yeah, I know. The comic situation right now is crazy. There's so many stories and lines, and then forget about, if you missed some, you got to go back. And some of those comics are now, if they have a key appearance by somebody, first appearance, Star Wars fans and collectors, they're snatching them up and causing those prices to jump.
So we decided to have a look at some items which are, special to our own home country. So I'm going to start with my first one. I don't really know why I went with H.C. Ford erasers. H.C. Ford, a lot of people do like them. They're easy to collect, they're quite cheap, they're quite novel, but only over the years I've been, thinking about them a lot more, and I'm thinking, why? Why did they exist in the first place? So I had written an article on Fantha Tracks about H.C. Ford's Star Wars branded range. I think I did it in 2 parts, Empire and Star Wars. But I want to focus on the erasers initially, especially those scented erasers. Now, Chris, before we get into the scents and things like that, in the first set you had Luke, Han, Leia, the droid C-3PO2, Darth Vader, and Chewbacca. Kind of makes sense that 6 will be, the first set that they will come out. You use those images.
Yeah, I agree. We got some of the key characters, and we got an alien species, some droids, and obviously Darth Vader. Were there any that you were thinking should have been in there?
Well, I was trying to rack your brains yet. I mean, you don't often see Harrison Ford, Han Solo's likeness, and I mean, it's far from unique, of course, but it's not very often. You often see a Tusken Raider or perhaps Ben Kenobi in that kind of place. But what I find even more bizarre about these is the fact that they're scented and they look edible. And it just makes you think, back in the late 70s when things were completely different. A kid eats a rubber, you're the dunce of the class. Nowadays, a kid eats a rubber and you sue the company for $1 million, It's just
right. It is really funny. I wonder if the fact that they're called perfumed erasers that might have tried to deter, the adults, trying to warn the kids. But, I mean, clearly those colors look like bubblegum colors, and I can see quite a few of those having been tried, tasted, and chewed up, and that sort of thing. But it's just, I don't know, the 70s and the marketing and all that stuff. It's just definitely quirky, and I think it adds to the fun, looking back.
But it's interesting you picked up there perfumed, because perfume's not really a British term. I mean, obviously perfume is, but we never say, can you smell the perfume? You would say scent, or you would say something along those lines. So yes, it is odd that. Now, what I like about these is they're all easy to get in a brand new condition. So there must be tons and tons of overstock of these. Last time I was looking at these, you could probably pick up all 6 of them for around about £25-30. So they're not hard to get at all.
I mean, that's just one of those things where this hobby can be very expensive at times, but it's really cool to find things where you can complete a set for relatively cheap money. That's always a plus.
Absolutely, and there are lots of other H.C. Ford items as well, like the pencil toppers, which I'm sure you're very familiar with those as well. Those are easy to pick up. Now, the other erasers that I want to talk about, which is why I focused on the characters on the first set, the Return of the Jedi updated set, because, like most things, there wasn't an Empire Strikes Back branded range. So on the Jedi one, you have the same Han Solo, exactly the same shot. You've got Chewbacca, you've got Droid 3PO, and you've got Darth Vader with 2 Stormtroopers. So those 4 are identical. They're the same. They've just got Return of the Jedi brand. Now, they've replaced Luke and Leia with an Ewok, and you can kind of get that. Sure. It was kids' fun. And the other one is Gamorrean God. Is it a case of they've just plucked the wackiest looking alien they possibly could and put him on there? It's just such an unusual one for me, Gamorrean God. I love it. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
And who doesn't like the Gamorrean gods?
Sure.
But, you think like Jabba the Hutt possibly, or, Yoda.
I know. There really is. And yeah, you wonder how early on the company was able to produce these in, where it fell in line with the movie being released and what was made available to them for characters if they really had a choice. But there's definitely a theme with the Gam Guard along all products for Return of the Jedi. You see him pop up in various things. I mean, even more with this company, but, like soaps and stuff. And it's just like, what the heck, And one other thing is, like, wouldn't it make sense for the green one to be with the Gam Guard and the blue maybe to be with Han Solo? Funny choice there.
Absolutely. I've just realised that the Chewbacca photograph is different.
Yeah.
So they've actually used a different image for Chewbacca. I mean, that's not to say, of course, that the Gamorrean God wouldn't benefit from perfume scent.
Just like the soap,
Yeah, exactly.
All kinds of, nice smelling products being shoved in his direction.
Now, with erasers to H.C. they've released a lot more on the Jedi line. I'm sure you've seen them, the white ones with the silhouettes around them, and they're pretty cool as well. I do like them. I think they did really well. The ones I find really odd are the ones that are shaped like LPs. The record erasers. I just don't get them. still to this day, I don't get them. They're about, 4-inch square.
Really?
Still really easy to get a hold of. You probably pick all 4 up of them. I think there's 4 in a set. There's a yellow one, a pink one, a grey one, and a blue one. And you pick them up for about £15 or something for all 4.
I've honestly never seen the record erasers, so that's really interesting to me. It's such an odd choice. Definitely, I've come across quite a few of the white background erasers. Always see the wickets. That's like the most common one we see over here. Seem to always be at least 1 or 2 in like a collection or something, but you hardly ever see them in the original bags. So those are cool, and it's nice that you got a Boba Fett. I'm sure he's the most expensive out of the bunch.
To be honest with you, I don't really see them that often. I mean, yes, they are available, and I think a lot of people have just got them in boxes. I mean, for actually Pete Davis, who I mentioned before, he's the best person to go hunting with, because he will literally pull your table to pieces looking in the boxes underneath what you've got, because that's where he finds his bargains. So I'm sure a lot of them are shoved under there. But, erasers in Star Wars, there's certainly lots of them, and I don't think any of them are difficult to track down. I think the white ones that we just mentioned are hard in unused condition, but
Sure.
you can always find them.
This is Steve Bloom, voice of Zeborelios, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks. Caravast. May the force be with you.
Right, Chris, let's have something over from the States, and what have you picked up?
First up on my list is a company called Drawing Board Greeting Cards. They produce products from A New Hope all the way through to Ewoks. And the reason I picked this company is my 5th or 6th birthday, their products were featured prominently with the decor of my birthday. And I have a bunch of pictures of the Return of the Jedi product, the whole set up. The main one that I'm going to focus on initially here is the table centerpiece. It's got Luke and Vader fighting in front of a viewport on the Death Star with TIE fighters and X-Wings in the background. This design featured throughout the product line for Return of the Jedi. It's just one of those things where I don't know if they had this type of stuff in Europe or whatever, but in the US, this company, they made all sorts of party items such as hats, plates, napkins, tablecloths. But their main thing was greeting cards. The types of greeting cards that they had, I mean, it was just some amazing imagery. The artwork was quite specific to this company. One of the ones that really stood out for me, again, with the Jedi line was there was a card with Vader being flanked by 2 Imperial guards. And it's just, may the force be with you, like not a birthday card or anything. I think some of the artwork that was created for this company and the various products that they came out with is just so unique. And I don't know, it just screams, that era. And they took liberty with some of the styling and that sort of thing. Just some funny cards with the droids and different characters. But this company and these products definitely are some ones that really stuck out to me. I have dabbled in collecting some of the stuff. It's really easy to get, especially even new old stock stuff still in the package, cheap money. I mean, there's some things that are difficult, like, a display, a store display, very, very rare to come across. But yeah, just another cheaper item that I think helps expand your collection. What are your thoughts on some of these products?
Never seen them before, but I love them. I think they're brilliant. I love the Vader with the Emperor's Wild Guards flanking him. As a kid, I wouldn't have cared if it didn't have Happy Birthday inside.
Right.
Brilliant. Love it. Yeah. And I love the centerpiece as well. What a great idea. I'm not aware of any other Star Wars centerpieces.
This is the only one for Jedi, I believe. There may have been one for Empire Strikes Back. I don't know if there was one for A New Hope. One other item that I find really interesting, it's not a production piece, but it's actually a catalog for the products. And it's got the Hildebrandt cover. And it is filled with all kinds of the items that they produced. Finding one of these catalogs is very difficult. I have never seen one. I'm looking at Duncan Jenkins example on the SWCA, but I would imagine this is one of those top tier items for a focus collector for this company's products and stuff like that. But I feel like it's kind of one of those things where once you start really looking at it, looking at the artwork, the uniqueness and stuff, you could really go down a serious rabbit hole and start trying to check things off the list of, what you could put in a display.
I love that. I'm really glad you brought that to my attention. I've never seen those before. And the reminders of the bookmarks.
Yes.
Some of the vivid colours that they're using. I can't remember the name of the company who did the bookmarks now.
That was going to be one of my items because I definitely had some of those bookmarks and I loved having those and, wouldn't mind trying to track some down.
Yeah, I've got a few of the bookmarks. I think there's possibly 16 or so in the set.
Mm-hmm.
They're not too tricky. Random House, of course.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Lovely. Right, they come back over to me then. So this is an item that I just did not know existed at all back when I was a child. And this was the Palatoy Death Star.
Ooh,
and... I was at the Palatoy talk, must be about 5 years ago now, with Bob Breakin, who designed the Palatoy Death Star, and he opened the exhibit by saying that he believes it's the greatest playset that's ever been made. And it's quite a big claim, but I understand what he was trying to say, because for something that's so cheap, but equally have so much playability on it, I think it's really well. Now, this would have been for sale in the UK probably between 77 and I would imagine up to 1980. I can't say going beyond 1980 much. Mm-hmm. So I would have been 4 at the time. And for the price of one of these for a 4-year-old, I just would never have got one. I would have bitten into pieces in minutes. So when I first started, collecting loose, I was after the American Death Star because I still love that playset. I think it's brilliant. I love all the features of it. Mm-hmm. But it's only been, I'd say, probably the last 5 years or so that I've got more accustomed to the Palatoy one and moved away from the fact it's cheap and chatty looking to actually what it is. I do like it because it's big. I don't know if you've seen one assembled, but it must be a good 1.5 feet in diameter.
Wow.
Yeah, it must be, and probably a good 15 inches high. So they do take up a lot of space when you fully assemble them. But what I did was with mine is I put the die-cast vehicles on some of the Ian Sanderson stands. So I put them in the hangar on the Death Star to make it look so they were parked in the reason. Yes, it was odd having a land speeder on there, but
it's all right.
It really set off the Star Destroyer and the TIE Fighter, and I thought it was brilliant. But I do love it. I love the whole, the crushing the figures, and I love the way that they've added extra detail. So, what kid's going to have 12 Stormtroopers? None.
Yeah.
But with the Palatoy Death Star, you've got 12 Stormtroopers, you've got about 6 or 7 Death Squad commanders because they're painted on the walls. Absolutely brilliant. And the fact that they reused the X-Wing cannons as the cannons on the Death Star, just pointing at the hole, keep it cheap and keep it really exciting. And I think they nailed it. Love it. What are your thoughts on the Palatoy Death Star?
Honestly, I probably came across images of this throughout my years of collecting with various catalogs and manuals and that sort of thing, perusing the internet. But, it never really clicked with me until I got back into collecting in about 2015 and, really understood what this playset was all about and, why Palatoy went this way. And I absolutely love it. I love the artwork, the playability factor, all the different tiers in the rooms. And I just think this type of playset is genius. We as collectors, we always want more things to complement our collection. And this type of playset really allows for a great display, a great setup. And I wish that Kenner had taken some notes on this and kind of did their own versions of other playsets. You had cardboard backdrops with some of the playsets, but just the whole idea on this, just genius. And we see it today, a few collectors have gone as far as creating their own custom vintage style playsets. I love that. I wish Hasbro would do more of that stuff. They've kind of done a few things here and there, but not to the scale that they could. Love this. And for those variant collectors, there's a few other variants of this, I believe.
Yeah, so you've got the Canada version, Tall Toys as well, which is more of a thicker card. not quite chipboard. They're really tough to get. So the first two items we mentioned are fairly cheap and probably easily available. To get one of these loose, complete, you're probably looking around about £500, I would say, at the moment.
Ooh.
Boxed, £750 wouldn't be too far away, £800.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with these is the little clear case that sits on the top where the Stormtrooper sits inside.
Mm-hmm.
When you say yellowed bubbles, these go brown, really brown. So if you manage to get one and it isn't yellowed, 99% certain it's a repro. They're very, very difficult to get. So I got lucky with mine. It came from a childhood collection. Just basically tossed it into his attic, so it was still pretty clear. But if you had to put it on a mint on card, you would have sold it as a yellowed bubble. Very brittle as well. So yeah, that's probably the most difficult piece to get. But the rest of the bits are readily available. Well, good luck hunting one of them down.
Definitely not in the States.
Here's where to find Fantha tracks during Star Wars Celebration Europe.
You can find Fantha tracks in the fan displays area across the whole event, near to the Galactic Senate stage in the North Hall if you're there. Or, if you spot a Fantha track shirt on the show floor, be sure to come on over and say hi. On Saturday, 8th April from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., Good Morning Tatooine, hosted by Brian Cameron with co-host Florian Bohr from Jedi Bibliothek, will be on the HoloNet News stage, room 17, along with very special guest author Adam Christopher. Also, on Saturday, 8th April from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., Desert Planet Discs, hosted by Carl Bayless and Greg Robertson, will be on the Galactic Senate stage, bringing the fan-made music of the Star Wars galaxy to the XL, focusing on Return of the Jedi, with some very special guest panelists. Saturday evening, on the River Thames, we'll see Fantha tracks take part in Sail Barge to Celebration, a sold-out clubs-only ticketed event that is sure to bring a few surprises. On Sunday, 9th April, from 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., Start Your Engines, hosted by Paul Naylor and Mark Newbold, will be on the HoloNet News stage, room 14. And just 2 hours later, from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., on the same stage, we'll see the return of Making Tracks Live with your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster. Hashtag Cantina returns Sunday night to the Indigo at the O2, and Fantha Tracks are your hosts for the VIP after party with guest DJ Atomic Blonde. If you have tickets, be sure to attend, as this is where you have a great chance of spotting some very famous faces from the galaxy far, far away, right in the crowd. Finally, on Monday, 10th April, from 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., Planet Leia, hosted by Claire Henry and Johanna Nebielios, will be on the HoloNet News stage, room 17.
Have fun, and remember, Fantha trackers are everywhere.
My next item or items, they are from the American Toy and Furniture Company.
Oh, brilliant. I love these. I've seen these before.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they mainly did things for Return of the Jedi, but they also did stuff for Ewoks. These are the types of items that they probably made a ton of them, but you don't really see them too often. The places you're most likely to see them are like at a flea market or a garage sale or a boot sale. A lot of shops don't really get into this type of thing because of the real estate that they can take up. But the first item that I'm going to discuss is the Return of the Jedi bookshelf showcase, as they claim on the box. This particular item, it's white framed, and you've got 3 shelves, and each shelf has a backdrop. The top one is a space battle scene with a Star Destroyer, TIE fighters, and you've got the partially assembled Death Star over Endor. So that's dramatic, and it's got the Return of the Jedi red nameplate up in the back. The next shelf, it's on Tatooine, and it's prominently featured as Weequay, right up front with Luke and Lando on the skiff with Jabba's sail barge in the background. So that's pretty cool. And then you've got Return of the Jedi on the shelf itself. And then my favorite shelf, it's actually on Endor, and it's right at the Imperial bunker. And you've got Luke facing off against a biker scout on a speeder. He's got his lightsaber drawn, low gray in the foreground. some stormtroopers fighting Han, I believe there, with an ATST in the background. If I had seen one of these as a kid, I would have been begging my parents to get it, but I didn't really see these until I was probably in my teens while I was still hunting for Star Wars items at an antique shop. I saw one, but love the artwork, and I mean, really difficult to find unassembled in the box these days. Most of the time, they're pretty battered, which gives it some charm. But if you're trying to find a mint condition one, it's going to be tough.
Don't think there's any chance whatsoever I would have been able to have one of these as a kid because they would just be too expensive. But I can imagine getting a white one and putting my own backdrops in from posters to emulate what was there. What does showcase mean? Because that's not a term that we have over here.
I mean, I think it fell in line with that collector mentality even back in the day, just showing off, instead of using
display case.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of using it for books, even in the image on the box, on the front of the box, you've got a Kenner Landspeeder down on the bottom. So I think kids could have used it to set up their play sets and vehicles and figures and reimagine scene or whatever.
I love the description, mine, constructed of wood and hardboard with non-toxic finish.
Oh, yeah, that's a very U.S. selling point, non-toxic.
I believe there was some kind of computer desk as well, wasn't there, from memory?
Yeah, so they made a number of products, and the next one on my list is, in the early 80s, definitely could have been a computer desk, probably more so to encourage kids to do their homework and that sort of thing. But this particular one has a very big scene on each side of it. I'm not 100% sure if the scene is repeated on the other side, but the images that I have seen are mainly on Tatooine. You've got the skiff right in front with Return of the Jedi prominently right in the middle, and you've got Jabba's sail barge, Jabba's palace in the background. Really cool artwork of the dunes on Tatooine. But again, it's got the white kind of board material. And I could see these just getting beat up and, crayon marks and pencil marks and that sort of thing. So again, to try to find this stuff in pristine condition and unused, super rare. But, usually when you come across this stuff, because of the condition and the size, it's pretty inexpensive considering what it is. But yeah, I mean, you could have a whole bedroom set up with all this furniture if your parents, wanted to spend all that money on you.
I absolutely love them. If I could take anything back from the States, it would be probably the bookshelf. Although I do like this computer desk as well. You're right, it probably wasn't a computer desk. It'll be a writing desk or something. But yeah, I love it.
The next one, it's another bookcase, but it's also a toy chest. And this one has Ewoks featured on it, but not from Return of the Jedi, from the cartoon series. What I think is really cool about this is you've got Nisa and Wicket right on the bottom in the front, right underneath the toy chest area, and I think it's probably Nippet and Wily in the basket with that horse creature, whatever it's called. Yes, the bagger, yeah. It's got, great artwork, and you've got Wicket, but on the side, which makes it weirder, you've got R2 and C-3PO with an Imperial shuttle, but it's in Return of the Jedi font. So it's a weird combo item. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this?
Is this the only item I can think of that has Return of the Jedi branding on it?
Yeah.
With Ewoks or anything from Ewoks and Droids and Animation Line. I can understand them absolutely having C-3PO and R2-D2 on there because of the link between the cartoons.
Sure.
Was there an Imperial shuttle in the cartoons? Bit unlikely. Perhaps it just needed the branding on there to sell.
I don't know this line well enough to say if there was another variation of this that had all Return of the Jedi images on it, but this is the only one that I could come across. But one thing that I really like about the packaging on this is, again, you've got Kenner Star Wars figures shown being displayed on the shelf. Got a Landspeeder, and you've got an FX7. I think there's a Vader in there and a Han and other figures. And you've also got an X-Wing, and there might be a Rancor in there. I can't quite make out what's in the toy chest, but this is an item that would have been awesome to have as a kid. And I've never seen one of these in person. I don't know how rare they are, but again, near impossible to find boxed.
On this sliding doors, which, can house a lot of that things in there. You've got the alphabet and you've got, the numbers.
Yeah.
And then you've got some weird symbols and, is that the Ewok alphabet?
I think so.
It is.
I think it is. Yes.
Right.
I know you get a lot of, the pictograms underneath each letter. So you've got various items, A and apple and so on and so forth. Then you have, it's almost like dice, the dots on the dice underneath each number. And I think you could probably use the area underneath there for like chalkboard writing and that sort of thing. Yeah, multi-purpose item. It's always fun for kids.
Fantastic pickup. I love the American Toy Furniture Company. I think I would love to one day have a look and see what they had that was non-Star Wars related. I think there'll be some fun pieces out there.
Absolutely.
All right, the third one that I'm going to end with my country is, and I think when most people think of the UK, I think of Star Wars, other than Palatoy, Leprosec's going to be up there in the top 5 that people would mention. And I absolutely loved the Leprosec line as a kid. I've got to say, because I'm quite heavy-handed, most of the time when I would try and rub the Leprosec out, I would just put a hole in the paper and end up throwing it in the bin. but when you see the vast range of product that was out there for Leprosec, and I'm pretty sure that Craig Spivey, Grant Criddle and Mark Daniels are doing a Leprosec panel at Celebration, which will be absolutely fantastic to go and see. But the stuff that came up for Leprosec for Star Wars, it just goes on and on and on. And a lot of it is still easily available. But it appeared in, comics, and, it was packaged with sausages. There's a very, very famous Star Wars Walls sausages Leprosec offer. Action transfers for Wimpy. Wimpy had some Leprosec additions to it. Cereal, like Shreddies. I think that's probably where I got mine from. I probably would have gotten from Shreddies because I still am and always have been big cereal eaters. They're absolutely brilliant. I love them. And beyond Leprosec, they went into other areas like they made like notebooks and binders and many other things. So if you're going to go down the Leprosec line, it is definitely a rabbit hole without a doubt. But there are lots of items that you can pick up that are really cheap, and they always remind me of the Marvel comics, the original Marvel in the styles, and for a range of product that's fairly cheap to acquire. I mean, not everything, and certainly not things like store displays and things like that. You can't go wrong with Leprosec.
I agree. Definitely a rabbit hole. Again, coming back to the artwork, very good comparison with the Marvel comics and the coloring, bright colors to, emphasize shadowing and just the vast array of items that you could pick up on. It's no wonder that your buddies on the Vintage Rebellion are like every month are like, I've picked up 37 different Leprosec items this month. And, it's just like, there's just so much to pick up. And it is really cool when you can get into a line and there's entry point and you can really go pretty far in that line at the entry point price tag, and make a good dent. But some of these offers with the various food products and some of these store displays, man, they really pop and definitely could see some of that stuff being like grail level items to come across and being a tough one to track down. Just a great line.
Did you have Leprosec or something similar in the US?
Well, I mean, it was branded color forms. Definitely had them as a kid and more of the Return of the Jedi era. So I had several of the color form play sets like you. It was like hit or miss whether or not you could get the items off and without destroying them. And a lot of kids that I was friends with had this stuff back in the day. But yeah, it wasn't branded Leprosec.
Where they went downhill was when they got to the Jedi line. I think they just got too much and too ridiculous with some of the things they came up with. I certainly remember criticising the Jabba scene. From memory, there was no Gamorrean guard, but there was lots of exotic fruit and things like that. And I thought, what kid wants to rub exotic fruit out and place it next to Jabba, And the artwork got more, I don't know what's the way. They would probably argue it was better quality. But to me, it wasn't. It's absolutely not better quality. I like the original Marvel style. It was far more, unique is what I'm looking for, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely the Ewok, it's just ridiculous. Some of the, the poses that they're in and the facial expressions and everybody's like just super happy. I'm so happy to be shooting an arrow into the, I feel you there. You wonder like how much was being scrutinized with Return of the Jedi. There was just so many products being made. And you look at some of the the Sarlacc pit scenes, and it's just like, oh my goodness, just horrible. The Nyctos, and like almost no detail in their face, and Barada, bad artwork. I mean, it's quirky, and I can see, some people enjoying it, but I'm sure the completist has got to pick up everything. But one thing that really sticks out to me is the Ewok one with Leia showing some leg.
Yes.
It's like, okay, that's super random. But maybe the artist was feeling a little frisky, But I did have one of these play sets. I actually bought it from, I'm pretty sure I bought it from Pete Davis at Celebration Chicago 2019 at the room sales. I got the Return of the Jedi bunker set. And yeah, I bought that because it's one of the few items that actually has a Rebel Commando featured in it. Had to pick that up. But, I mean, the artwork leaves a bit to be desired.
Hello, I'm Ahmed Best, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
And Chris will quote you now for your third and final item from the US.
Okay, so this is an item that I've never owned. I've never had a chance to own one, but it's kind of one of those ones that I think about as a kid. If I saw this set up in a store, I would have been all over it. I was obsessed with the Return of the Jedi. This is the ride-on speeder bike pedal car from Huffy, and this was the promo for Kenner that was set up in stores and movie theaters. It's pretty much one of those top tier type of items, in my opinion, if you're a Return of the Jedi fan, to have in the collection. Very hard to find these in good condition. It pretty much looks like a speeder bike. It's got 3 wheels, obviously pedal car. Instead of handlebars like a normal bike, you've got individual handlebars, just like the speeder bike. And this thing is phenomenal. I know some people have found some like new old stock, and people like Steve Sansweet, I think, has the whole like store display and everything. And there's other giveaways, I think, along with this promotion. But yeah, definitely one of those items that, if I ever came across one in any condition, and it was fairly priced, I would be snagging this thing up. Just a cool cross promotional item between Huffy and Kenner. Didn't really see too much of this type of thing for Star Wars. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, this might surprise you. I actually have seen one in the UK.
Really?
I don't know how they got it over. And it was for sale at one of those Farthest From shows. I absolutely loved it. From memory, the guy wanted about £750, which would be about $1,000.
Yeah.
And it was in good condition, but it wasn't brilliant condition.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it as a few others were. I don't know if it's sold, but from the numbers on there, it says there's only 200-300 made, and they were never available in retail, which I never knew that. I love it. I think it's a great item. Very quirky, very unique.
The store display is just something else. The backdrop has trees like if it was in Endor, and you've got the ferns and stuff. You've got the grand prize, second prize, and third prize. The grand prize is obviously the bike. And then you could win an Imperial shuttle, which is really cool. And then I think the third prize was some figures. But man, just so cool. And then you had on the front of the display, there was like these cards that you would fill out, and then you'd put in the box and see if you could potentially win it. But this one was from Kmart. I think there was other department stores that were part of their promotion. And I don't know if like they had this same setup for like movie theaters. I've never personally seen a movie theater one. They're definitely out there. A friend of mine found one at a flea market last summer, and I mean, had no stickers on it. It was sun damaged. The wheels were all dry cracking, and it was missing the front portion of the bike. I think I've seen several others in similar condition missing the front portion of the bike. So it'd be near impossible to find those pieces to kind of restore it or, get it back closer to what it looks like. But you got to have a decent amount of space for something like this, let alone, finding the store display, which again, I mean, that's next level type of rarity. Something like that is typically found like it was never put out. A store manager never put it out and just tucked it in the back room, and then eventually it made their way to their attic and some collector, found it. But yeah, this is a top tier item that I would love to have someday.
We certainly didn't intend to do this, but we went from very octagonal items, easy to get, cheap, to items that you can look at pictures of, but you will never see them.
Exactly.
Well, that sums up Star Wars collecting overall, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does.
Well, Chris, we're getting towards the end of the show now, so I think it's been an absolute blast. I've loved looking at some of the images that you shared. So thanks for listening to Collecting Tracks. If you want to be part of the action, stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fanthatracks.com or check out the free Fantha Tracks app through the App Store to follow us on your mobile device. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fantha Tracks intro, Andy Lythe for our Collecting Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember to tune in to Good Morning Tatooine, live Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific on Facebook and YouTube. Check out Fantha Tracks Radio Friday evenings at 7 p.m. UK time for new episodes of The Fantha from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collecting Tracks and Cannon Fodder. And every Tuesday at 7 p.m. UK time for your weekly episode of Making Tracks.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.